Good afternoon, children. Previous day, I have done just one paragraph of your book, that is the introduction part of technological and institutional reforms, where we have done the challenges or the problems that are faced by the Indian farmers in the pre-independence days and the post-independence days. So, as a result of this problem, the agricultural productivity of the soil was declining and the farmers were suffering. As a result, what was needed was land reform. This was the main aim of our first 5-year plan. Agriculture sector was the priority. We have done it in the first chapter, that in the first 5-year plan, agricultural sector was the main priority. So in order to maintain that priority, land reform was introduced. Now the land reform was introduced in 4 stages, or you can say there were 4 categories through which the land reform was introduced. Now in the first category, the most important thing was abolishing the tenancy. Now there were many farmers who were tenants, who work as tenants in the farms of large farmers or the rich farmers. So the first step was to abolish tenancy and transfer the ownership to the tenants, and it was to be done through registration, and there will be certain terms which will be maintained in the contract. So proper legally the work should be done. Tenancy should be terminated and the right of farming should be transferred to the tenants, and it should be done legally with proper registration. Then the second step in this was to remove the intermediaries, because before independence also the zamindars used to maintain some people who were engaged in collecting rent from the farmers, and they used to themselves enjoy a large share of this surplus that they used to extract from the tenants. What I am saying is that these intermediaries, the people who were there between the zamindars and the tenants, used to exploit the farmers. They used to take more from the farmers than what was required and supply it to the British. But as now the British government was no longer there, so these intermediaries were not required, and they used to enjoy the surplus that they used to collect from the farmers. Then the Land Ceiling Act was implemented, under which a person cannot keep huge amount of land for personal purpose. The zamindars used to keep huge share of land, so this Land Ceiling Act was necessary to redistribute, to take lands from the zamindars and redistribute it to the landless laborers in the country. And the fourth part of this was to consolidate, to collectivize the land, and this was necessary so that the farmers themselves were poor, but if together they could join the lands, they can cultivate together, they can add their resources together, put their money together, and if they cultivate together, then the small plots of land can be joined into large plots, and this will help them to get the benefits of large scale production. But the implementation of this was not very successful, because the entire work was given to the state government, and wherever in state legislatures the zamindars, the number of zamindars were more, they did not allow this thing to be implemented very firmly because their interest was harmed. But in some state legislatures where the tenants were more represented in the government, there this Land Reform Act was better implemented. So it varied from one state to the another, depending upon the representative members in the state legislature. More members in the state legislatures by the zamindar class meant less stricter implementation of land reform measures. And wherever it was strictly implemented, that means the tenants were more in the state legislature. Now, why these reforms were necessary? Why it was necessary to introduce the technical and the institutional reforms in the country? Now, the first most important reason, of course, was to increase the efficiency and productivity of our agricultural sector. As we all know that a lot of people had to move across the border, there was too much of burden on the government to feed the people, and so it was necessary to create buffer stock in our country. So to increase the efficiency and the productivity in the agricultural sector, this technical and institutional reform was necessary. The second most important reason was to reduce poverty among the farmers, among the poor farmers, because as productivity will increase, their income will increase and the farmers will be in a better condition. Third most important fact why it was necessary was that many times in our country, sometimes there are flood, there are drought, there are disease, sometimes attacked by insects, and so the farmers loses a good harvest. So it means tremendous loss to the farmers. So when such thing happens, at that time the farmer has no income left for himself. So to ensure that the farmers do not suffer after flood, drought, disease of crops, this was necessary. The fourth reason was there to end the exploitation by the feudal lords or the zamindars and the intermediaries, to stop the exploitation by the landlords and the intermediaries. The next reason was there to redistribute the land to the landless farmers. There were many landless farmers and it was necessary to distribute the land to the landless poor. Next reason, of course, was to maintain food security in the country, and the last one was upliftment of the rural areas as well as the rural people. So keeping all these aims in mind, the technical and the institutional reforms were introduced in our country. In your book itself, children, you will find that it is written: collectivization, consolidation of holdings, cooperation and abolition of zamindari, etc. were given priority to bring the institutional reforms in the country after independence. Land reform was the main focus of our first 5-year plan. So the land reform that I discussed in 4 stages, I said that it was introduced in 4 stages. So that is the first institutional reform. So when we talk of institutional reform, the first institutional reform was collectivization, consolidation of holdings, cooperation, abolition of zamindari, etc. were given priority to bring institutional reform. Now, I had said institutional reform. What is institutional? Any institution which is meant to make such laws or guidelines which will help to improve or develop the situation. So that is institutional. So anything that is meant for the betterment of the betterment of any sector with the help of laws is done by the institution, and that is institutional. So reforms done through any institution or through organization is known as institutional. So institutional reforms, the first one is abolition of zamindari, collectivization and consolidation of holdings. That is what I say. The second institutional reform given in your next paragraph was provision for crop insurance against drought, flood, cyclone, fire, disease. So if there is any kind of damage to the crop by drought, flood, cyclone, fire, disease, then the farmers will of course get the return, but for that the farmers will have to opt for crop insurance. Like we have to pay premium for life insurance, similarly the farmers will have to pay certain amount for the crop insurance, and if the crop is damaged, the insurance company will pay the money to the farmer. So insurance company will help to overcome the loss. Then the establishment of Gramin banks, cooperative societies and banks for providing loan to the farmers at a lower rate of interest. So you will find there are many Gramin banks, or there are banks, other banks also set up in the rural areas of our country. So if you can give the proof that you are a farmer, then you can easily get loan at a lower rate of interest. That is a special provision for the farmers. The next one was introduction of Kisan credit card. Now in a credit card, children, we buy the product first and we pay later. We can pay it in installment also, and this is a special facility. The Kisan always have to buy seeds or fertilizers or pesticides and or say suppose machinery. So he can use the Kisan credit card. He will get it at a comparatively lower rate of interest. Similarly, there is also the personal accident insurance scheme for the farmers. These are introduced to benefit the farmers. And then the next one is announcement of minimum support price, remunerative procurement price for important crops by the government. Now what happens, children? The farmer directly does not come to the market to sell the products. He has to sell through some intermediaries. Intermediaries act between the buyer and the seller. So the buyer takes a certain commission, that is the intermediaries who help the farmers to connect the seller with the main authority who is buying, gets some commission in between. Like for example, the Food Corporation of India buys from the farmers. So the farmer does not come to the Food Corporation of India. There are some people who act in between, and they try to exploit the farmers by keeping a huge amount of commission for themselves. So the government announces certain price for the important crops. So different prices, like the minimum support price is there, procurement price is there, remunerative price is there, which are announced by the government. So if the government announces the price, then the farmers get lot of support and the intermediaries cannot exploit the farmers. I will give you the exact definition of these three terms at the end of my topics. And then the next institutional reform was setting up of ICAR. ICAR is Indian Council for Agricultural Research. So setting up of ICAR, agricultural universities, veterinary services, animal breeding and horticulture development. Now they carry out research work, develop different varieties of seeds, try to develop different kinds of medicines for the animals or the cattle that the farmers keep, because dairy sector is also a part of the agricultural sector. Different varieties of seeds are developed for the hybrid crops. So horticulture development is the cultivation of our fruits and vegetables. So new varieties of seeds are developed for the farmers in this research institutes. Now, what is procurement price? Price at which government buys the commodity from the producers. Producers are the farmers here, for maintaining buffer stock for the public distribution system. I am repeating again, price at which the government buys or procures the commodity from the producers. Producers are the farmers, for maintaining the buffer stock for the public distribution system. What is minimum support price? The price at which the Food Corporation of India, offers to the farmers for their agricultural crops. So minimum support price is announced every year for the major crops by the government. Okay, so minimum support price is the price which is announced by the government every year, and the procurement price is the price at which the government is buying. Then comes our remunerative price. Now remunerative price is the existing arrangement of price that the mill owners pay to the farmers and is announced again each year by the center. Now there are some crops which needs processing, like for example in case of rice the husk is removed. Okay, in case of wheat also, the wheat is pounded and made into flour. So again for oilseeds also certain processing is done. For sugarcane also again processing is necessary. So they are paid the remunerative price by the farmers, get the remunerative price from the mill owners, not the government. The government pays the procurement price. Government announces the minimum support price. The remunerative price is paid by the mill owners to the farmers when they are buying the crop from the farmers. But the price is announced by the center, otherwise the mill owners will continue to exploit the farmers. Now I am giving you few questions, children. My first question is, mention any 5 challenges faced by our Indian farmers. Mention any 5 challenges. Now this we have done it the previous day, not today. Mention any 5 challenges faced by our Indian farmers. What do you understand? The second question is, what do you understand by land reforms? What do you understand by land reform? Here you have to mention the 4 steps. That is the 4 steps that I have said today. The third question is, what type of financial assistance or protection cover is given to the farmers? So you have to mention all the financial assistance or protection cover. In the institutional reforms you will get them. So the financial assistance or protection cover. And the fourth question is, what step has the government taken to reduce exploitation by the middlemen? What steps has the government taken to reduce exploitation by the middlemen? So children, you will do these 4 questions, and next day I will do the technical reforms and your this Bhudan Gramdan movement, and very soon we will again meet in the Cisco Webex class to discuss the problems. Keep a note of them. Thank you, children. Children, I am posting the notes here. Kindly take them down. 4 categories in land reform, tenancy reform. First one, abolishing tenancy, transfer ownership to tenants. Third point, registration and stipulation of contractual terms, that is share in tenancy contracts. So second one is abolish intermediaries. Now here children, I will just make a little bit, that is share in shared tenancy contracts. It will be in this way only. The second was abolish intermediaries. The first point, they worked under zamindars to collect rent for British. Second point, they were given a large share of surplus extracted from tenants. The third one, implement Land Ceiling Act. This was necessary to redistribute surplus land to the landless. Second one was consolidate land holdings, not second one, sorry, fourth one, aim to achieve gains in agricultural sector through increasing efficiency. The implementation of measures varied from one state to another depending upon the representative members in state legislature. Next, why are technical and institutional reforms required? To increase efficiency and productivity in agriculture. Second point, to reduce poverty among farmers. Third point, to ensure that the farmers do not suffer even after drought. Fourth point, to end the system of exploitation by the feudal lords and zamindars. Next point, proper redistribution of land to landless poor. Next point, maintain food security in the country. And last point, upliftment of rural areas and rural poor. Next, institutional reforms. First point, abolition of zamindari, collectivization and consolidation of holdings. Next, provision for crop insurance against drought, flood, cyclone, fire, disease. Third point, establishment of Grameen banks, cooperative societies and banks for providing loan facilities to the farmer at a lower rate of interest. Fifth point, KCC, that is Kisan Credit Card, Personal Accident Insurance Scheme, was introduced for the farmers. Next point, fifth one, announcement of minimum support price, remunerative and procurement prices for important crops by the government. And sixth point, setting up of ICAR, agricultural universities, veterinary services, animal breeding and horticulture development. Now the definitions of procurement price. Procurement price is the price at which government procures or buys the commodity from producers. Here the producers are farmers. You can write farmers in bracket, for maintaining buffer stock for the public distribution system. The second one was minimum support price, the price which FCI is Food Corporation of India, offers to the farmers for their agricultural crops. The next one was remunerative price, that is existing arrangement of price to be paid to the farmers by mill owners and is announced each year by the center. So children, now take down the homework. My first question was, mention any 5 challenges faced by our Indian farmers. Second, what do you understand by land reforms? Third question, what type of financial assistance or protection cover is given to the farmers? Next question, what steps has the government taken to reduce exploitation by middlemen? So children, very soon after completing the technical reforms, I will meet with you all in the Cisco WebEx, and we will discuss the answers. You all write down and we will discuss the answers. You all confirm your answers through the Cisco WebEx. Thank you children, and please continue with your studies.